And please welcome in Myles Amine. Myles, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on here today.
Oh, let me check out that shirt. That is awesome.
Oh yeah. I got to
Ooh.
rep the brand today.
Is that was that something you got from like European Championships or European Games?
Yeah, the European Games actually they kind of hooked us up with a nice care package,
Very
some really cool
nice.
gear. So it was kind of cool to have.
Well, now that we have you in, it is our honor and pleasure to welcome in Myles Amine, San Marino's first ever freestyle Olympian. We like to start our show off the same every time, and that is getting the background information on you, just to give your fans and our fans a perspective of how you got into wrestling, why you're in the sport. So, real quick, I know that your grandfather, if I'm not mistaken, was a two-time Olympian for Lebanon.
Yep.
Is
Yeah,
that
that's
correct?
correct. Yeah.
So wrestling's been in your blood, but can you give us some background information as to why you got started?
So that tradition of wrestling was on my dad's side of the family. Started with my grandpa in Lebanon, and then he passed it down to my dad. I mean, my dad was a multiple time high school state champ and youth state champ, and then wrestled at the University of Michigan and was an NCAA finalist. And started us, at kind of a young age, but didn't pressure us to really wrestle. Um, and from there on, I kind of just picked up. I mean, I played a lot of other sports like football and soccer and even lacrosse in middle school and basketball. But once I got to high school, I fell in love with wrestling. I mean, that was kind of the turning point. Was like my freshman or sophomore year in high school. I realized like, hey, I want to do this at a really high level.
And what was it about wrestling that intrigued you so much?
Yeah, I love the one-on-one aspect. I mean, it's on you. I think there's not many sports in the world where it's a physical battle between you and another man or another woman, or person. And really, at the end of the day, it's like, whoever's physical and mental skills can, trump the other person. That's who's going to win the match. And there's really nobody else to blame but yourself too. I think that's a great aspect of it. It's like, looking back, I played in a lot of team sports, but the wins are that much sweeter in wrestling, and the losses are a lot more bitter. And I think I like that those highs and lows kind of, vary so much.
You said you played basketball. Were
Yeah.
you a shooter, passer? What were you?
I was a drive down the lane. I could do a reverse layup, and that's why I made the team in seventh and eighth grade. I could do a pretty good reverse layup, and I had a decent mid range jumper. So yeah, it's funny that wrestling and basketball, you put them on opposite ends of the spectrum. They're always, kind of battling. But I actually love playing both of them. I thought they were both, really fun and competitive.
I played basketball for 1 year, and I only made one shot. It was my coach put me in. It was like the last minute, and I shot it from half court as the time was expiring and made it. We were already winning, so it didn't mean anything. But yeah,
Still a buzzer beater shot.
yeah, my career didn't last too long. Let's talk about the start of your career. And before we do that, I went through all of your matches. I watched every one of your matches from your international career, and you have 7 losses. And I usually don't like to highlight the losses that you have, but every one of those 7 losses, outside of one, has come to either. Everyone has a world medal on their resume. Do you know the lone person who does not?
Uh, you got to give it to me. I don't know. I should.
Kurugaliev.
Oh, Kruglev. Yeah.
And he lost to David Taylor and Hassan Yazdani at the 2018 World Championships. But that's crazy. I mean, that goes to show the level of competition that you're facing out here. And wrestling in San Marino, you guys compete in Europe. So your first international competition was the European Championships in Bucharest. So let's go there. You end up finishing in 9th place. But I want to figure out what you learned from that tournament, because from there on, it's really been leaps and bounds from your improvements. So let's start here. Heading into the European Championships in Bucharest, what was your mindset like? Did you feel that you were ready to compete with these guys, or were you a little hesitant, and did you have questions surrounding your preparation?
I was a little nervous. I have to admit, I was a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous. Obviously, I competed once internationally before. It was at the Pan American Championships back when I was a cadet for the U.S. And so I really didn't have much international experience. But at the same time, I know I'm surrounded by, some greats at Michigan, obviously with Sergey and, Sean Bourne being a tremendous coach and all the other coaches at Michigan. So I
Leah Howard
knew,
as well. Sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you. Another
yeah,
great.
one of the best SIs in the world. So, um, yeah, I knew that I was going to be prepared. I mean, I just come off the NCAA tournament and lost to, a really close triple overtime match to Mark Hall, and he's a guy who's had a lot of international success. So I knew that I was at that level already. But obviously, once you actually show up and go to compete there, it's a little bit different. You start to maybe get some doubts and whatnot. But I remember wrestling my first match. That's always where all my nerves come out. Getting that first match out of the way at the European Championships, I was started rolling, and I felt really good. The only thing I would say is I was a little bit undersized at the time. I'd wrestled 174, so 79 kilos, at the world champ or at the NCAA championship 3 weeks earlier, or 2 weeks earlier, and then I had to go up to 86, which is I was weighing probably 185 pounds, getting ready for that tournament. So that was probably the only thing that I had in my head that I was like, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous just because I think I'm small, but other than that, I felt really good. And then I think that part of the reason why I made those leaps and bounds is just because I didn't really hold anybody to a higher standard than I would hold anybody in the U.S. I just wrestle everybody the same. I have a very offensive style, and it doesn't matter who it is. I live and die by the sword, because even looking at the World Championships, I wrestled Yazdani, in the semifinals, and I went out there and I took three, attacks that probably weren't the best setups. And, I still, like I said, I wanted to attack, though. That's even the best guy in the world, one of the greatest of all time. I made the mistake of maybe not setting up my shots and playing it out, but that's who I am as a wrestler, and that's why I think I've come so far.
And that was going to be another question that I had for you. Your shot selection, you just touched on it. Looking back to those European Championships, you didn't give up a takedown in your first match. Against Amine of Georgia, you gave up a takedown off of your shot. And then against Vladislav Valiev, his first takedown came off your shot. And then with Ali Shabanov, his first takedown came off your shot. So it was the shot selection for you seemed to be a little questionable in that first tournament. But moving forward, it has significantly improved. So was that something that you put high importance on after those European Championships?
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, just looking at it, the more you shoot, the more you learn. I think even in practice, like if you only take one shot in practice and you mess up that shot and you get taken down off of it, then it might be hard to go back after and say, oh, well, how did that happen? But if you're constantly attacking and you take 10 of those shots in practice, and there was one of them that you have to analyze and say, I got 9 takedowns, but I got taken down once off of it. What did I do wrong there? I think that's a lot more easy to analyze than something if I was more of a defensive wrestler. So it really just came down to the fact that, it's a lot easier to making adjustments when you're willing to take those risks. And that's kind of what happened for me was I made the adjustments because, I took those risks every day and practice leading up to, and just looking back at the film, like, hey, I took that knee pull single, I think. I was kind of a half shot, and so he was able to get that angle on me. Maybe next time I have to, fake before I shoot. So, it just comes with the fact of when you take those risks, it's easier to make adjustments.
That's a T-shirt right there. What you said. The more you shoot, the more you learn. And it's right, because some people are so afraid, and that's what I've been so impressed with you is that. And the thing I saw, which I mean, I'm sure if your opponents are watching any match with you, the first thing you do, you get out there and immediately in the first period, 10 seconds, you're shooting every single match, and that's something that they know is coming, but a lot of people can't stop it. So when you're walking out to the mat, give me what's going through your mind. Are you just ready to attack, or what are you thinking about?
I got to give credit to Jake Herbert. He was a big influencer in kind of my pre-match warm-up, mentally, and kind of to start off a match, because he always told me, within the first 10 seconds of the match, you should be trying to score. If you look at the statistics of it, And I think it's a crazy high percentage of whoever gets the first takedown, their likelihood of going or winning the match goes up like crazy. And I just remember talking to him, and he was like, I'm literally trying to take you down within the first 10 seconds of the match. And what that also does is if I don't get a takedown in the first 10 seconds, I'm probably going to have a more likelihood to keep my shots going than if I wait a minute into the match. I feel like sometimes, you go out there and you lock up, and then what ends up happening is you just get defensive. So taking that first shot, even if I don't get in on your leg or I don't score, it allows me to kind of set a tone for the rest of the match to where I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go, and I'm going to be really offensive this entire 6 minutes.
And that brings me to my next point. We're kind of jumping around here, but for me, it was apparent. What you just said was when you don't open up with those offensive shots, you become more of a defensive wrestler. And there's nothing that tells me that more than watching your 2 matches with Ali Shabanov. In that first match at the Bucharest European Championships, you didn't take a shot for the first 2.5 minutes, and that's not like you. And you look at your 2019 opening round matchup at the World Championships with Shabanov, and you go from losing 6-2 and giving up 3 takedowns to winning the match and moving on in the World Championships. So what was the biggest difference in that match for you? I want to start there because I have, of course, when I broke it down, I looked at what was the difference. But for you, what was the difference there?
Preparation, definitely preparation, and a little bit of confidence. But from a technical standpoint, there's obviously all those mental factors that do play a big difference. But from a technical standpoint, it just involved, Sergey and I talked before the match, and he said, it's obviously going to be a tough match, but let's wear him out. The first match, I think you spend too much time sitting around, just wasting time and playing into his game. He said, you're a great hand fighter, 1, and 2, you have better conditioning than most people in the world right now. So my strategy really was just to keep my offense up and everything, but involve more fakes, involve more hand fighting in the first period. And he said, even if you're losing by a point or 2 points at the end of the first period, that's fine. You're still going to win the match. That's where we want to be. And I think I was losing 1-0 at the end of the first, but I just remembered the last maybe 20 seconds of the first period of that match, I started to get my motion going. And you can see I started having Shabanov was biting on all my fakes. And I remember even at the end of the first period, I had almost a fake snap go behind because he bit so much that he dropped to his knees, and I was able to snap him and get the hold of his back leg. So the strategy really was, and then after that, I knew I'm like, I feel great. And I looked over, I remember looking over when he was at the other corner and he looked exhausted. And that just gave me so much more energy. And I was like, now I can wrestle how I like to wrestle, which is offensive and just let it fly. And that's kind of what I did in that second period. And I got to my takedown right away because, I opened him up and I kind of wore him out a little bit with my aggressive style.
Yeah, and in the first matchup, you allowed him to pick where he wanted to attack, and his choice of poison for that match was attack upper body. So he scored off a slide by, double underhooks, and single underhook. So you adjusted, and then in that second match, that's what I had. You added the heavy fakes, which kept him on his heels, and from that point, you also took away those underhooks from him, so it allowed him to not get to his offense from the upper body standpoint, and it forced him to move down to your lower body. And not a lot of people have scored on you taking shots. It's pretty impressive. Yeah. But let's circle back to the World Championships when the brackets come out. You see on your side in Nur-Sultan, Hassan Yazdani, Jaime Espinal, Ali Shabanov, Arthur Nefonov, Alexander Gostiev, Yurieski Torreblanca, and Sasuke Takatani, and then on top of that yourself. A list of names who have either world or Olympic medals right there. So what's your mindset like heading into your first World Championships? This is your debut with an opportunity to lock up an Olympic berth for San Marino, which is the first ever. What is your mindset like?
One match at a time. That was, looking at a bracket like that, It's funny. I remember seeing Shabanu as the first name on there, and I ignored the rest of the bracket. I remember purposely exiting out of the bracket saying, I don't know who I have to wrestle next. I didn't even see. It's probably better that I did that because I think I would have realized I had some, some powerhouse wrestlers, like you said, world and Olympic guys all the way through. So I said one match at a time, and I promised myself, all we got to do is we just got to win one match at a time. And then I realized, as I started wrestling these guys, I was like, it's going to be that much sweeter, when I qualify for the Olympics, and these guys, are sitting at home and thinking, man, I wish, who is that Myles Amine guy?
Where'd he come from?
Yeah, I wish I would have prepared more because, I knew how much I prepared, and I knew that, even if these guys were Olympic and world medalists, I had a great shot to still, accomplish what I wanted to, which is to qualify for the Olympics. So, yeah, I think that one match at a time mentality was so crucial. And then also at the same time, just, thinking it's going to be that much sweeter when, I beat some of the best guys in the world to really prove to everybody that, hey, this isn't a fluke just because I'm wrestling for another country, but I'm still beating the best guys in the world.
Do you ever thank your parents, brothers, supporters for the nerves that I went through, and you have, here are your 1-point matches, 1 or 2-point matches that you've had, and they have to be sweating. Amine 2-2, Baranowski 4-3, Alexander Gosiev 3-3, Torieska Blanca 3-2, and then let's talk about the Takatani at the World Championships. You're down on criteria 2-2 with, there was no time on the clock. It was 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
You're in on a shot. You have to get the takedown to secure the win on criteria. As the buzzer sounds, you end up picking up the takedown. You get up, and if you've watched you wrestle, you know that you don't show a lot of emotion, and you just got up like it was a normal day for you. So what was going through your mind was it just, I have to go?
Yeah. I think I owe a lot of that to just being in the moment. The not celebrating necessarily the highs and the lows. There's just such a, when I wrestle at my best, I'm at a supreme level of focus. And so, what that means is I'm literally thinking about, how do I get to a scoring position, and then how do I score from there? And that's what happened in that match was, I got to that position, and I had no clue how much time was on the clock. All I knew was that, there was probably short time, and I had to get to a scoring position and score from there. And, a little bit of luck played into it, I think, because when looking back at it and watching the match, I guess it was almost like I knew that the time was expiring, even though in my head I didn't, my body did, because, his elbow literally hit at like point as the time was expiring. And so, I think I was just so focused on scoring, and that kind of shows that, sometimes when, you're not looking at the clock or, looking over at the coaches or the time, it can work in your favor. And that's kind of what that moment was, because I didn't have a second to spare to look at the clock. I just thought, hey, wrestle through this position, good things will happen. And I got pretty lucky, but it helped me qualify for the Olympics. So
that put you in the quarterfinals, which you had to win against
Yep.
Ahmed Dudarov of Germany in order to pick up that berth to the Olympic Games. Now, you take the early 4-0 lead, and he ends up scoring a takedown 4-2, and then around the 5-second mark left in the second period, he tries to shoot. You circle back in towards the center, and he stays on his knees. And that's when you realized that's actually the first time I've ever seen you celebrate. But that's when you realize that you locked up the berth to the Olympic Games. And as you watch that match, you hear the great Brian Hazard, he says, and for the first time, San Marino qualifies for the Olympic Games in wrestling. And that's going on all while you're celebrating. Are you hearing that over the loudspeaker?
No, I think I definitely watching it back, I was like, wow, he said all that stuff. Like, and Brian's voice is so like recognizable that, whenever he was announcing in the arena, I could hear it. But I think everything was just zoned out for a moment and it felt surreal. Really, I just think that all the years of preparation and hard work and kind of just realizing, that's one of my big goals that I'd finally been able to accomplish. I set some pretty high goals for myself, and a lot of the times I've come up just short. Whether that was at the NCAA's winning an NCAA title, and then obviously I actually my goal for the World Championships was to win a world medal, and so I think that it was also to obviously qualify for the Olympics. I think I almost got too caught in the moment there that I was like, it felt so surreal, and I had such a high that I think it affected my wrestling for the rest of the tournament. But in hindsight, I mean, it was just I can't say I would go back and change anything, because to experience something like that and to have a lifelong goal realized like that, there's just no right way to react. And so I was just zoned out.
We'll move to a quick fan question. Jenners_05 asks, what's it like to represent your family, but more importantly, what's it like to represent San Marino? And you're doing it at the highest level. So what's that like for you?
It's honestly, it's something extremely special. Obviously representing my family, that's something a lot of people take a pride in. And like, for me, I'm a big family guy. So yeah, representing my family and the heritage and of wrestling, and then San Marino side of, the country is something that's super special. But then on top of that, you look at a country like San Marino, with, such a small population, less than 50,000, and only one other Olympic athlete right now, as of now, and no Olympic medals, and to be somebody who's kind of making history in a lot of senses for them, is something I take a lot of pride in. And there's also a lot of responsibility. At this point, it was great at first to kind of get all that recognition, but then there's this looming thing with San Marino that's like they've never had an Olympic medal before. And, for me, I think I take, responsibility at this point, being so close, that I want to be that guy. I want to be the one that changes the course of sports and of wrestling for that country. And so it's honestly something that's really special, and something that is still in the making. It's like it's what helps me get up in the morning and go to those training sessions, knowing that I have a chance to, alter the course of an entire country.
Gave me chills. Wow. I'm trying to, the thoughts just going through my head. It's a lot of weight. And we had John Belenyuk from Ukraine, Olympic silver medalist from a couple of years ago. And he said the most difficult thing, and maybe you can learn from this, is the 2 months prior to the Olympic Games. Your phone is going to be blowing off the hook with people reaching out, telling you, giving you words of encouragement, and telling you're the hero and all this stuff. So what are you going to do before the Olympics? Do you plan on just turning your phone off, or how are you going to keep your focus leading up to the Olympic Games?
I kind of like to go blackout mode. I probably won't turn off my phone, but I'll make sure that I log off all social media. I like to receive those words of encouragement, or to keep in touch with the people that mean something to me, or that I have a close relationship with. If you have my number, then I trust that whatever you're going to be texting me is going to be worth me reading. And so yeah, I think really the only time that I think that would affect my preparation is if I let it, and if I go into those social media comments. And obviously there's always going to be something negative to say, but keeping my focus, I think that's something that helps me keep my focus, is hearing words of encouragement. And especially my dad's he's really good at it. He's somebody that he'll probably be traveling to the Olympic Games, or he is going to be. It's not a probably. My parents haven't missed really one of my events ever. They've been to all these international events, which is something that I'm so grateful for. But a lot of my preparation involves, just him between him and Sergey just being in my ear and talking to me, and I trust everything they say. So doing everything else too that I've already done. I mean, you don't want to change something if it works.
And earlier you said that you may have allowed the celebration for after qualifying for the Olympics to affect some of your wrestling. In those last two matches, you wrestled Hassan Yazdani and Artur Nafanov, and ended up with a fifth place finish at the World Championships. But I want to talk about your competition against Russian athletes. You've wrestled now Kurugaliev, Nafanov, and Vladislav Valiev. So you've had the three best Russians that you've competed against. What do you have to do to solve that Russian puzzle?
Oh, it's in the works. Hey, I have the insider intel with Sergey, so I the only way to beat the Russians is join them, right? So that's why we have Sergey on our coaching staff, and trust me, we spent a lot of time, reviewing those matches, and I think that there is a common theme with Russian wrestling, at least the guys that I've wrestled, is just they have great defense, and that's something that obviously I think is part of the reason why I've lost those matches. Is it's just matchup wise, I didn't do enough to prepare for that great defense and strategy and think about some of those matches beforehand. But yeah, I've done everything I can, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to prepare for those matches. And yeah, trust me, I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I'm going to win those matches.
Who do you think is going to represent Russia at the Olympics at your weight, out of those three?
That's tough. I think just from what I see, I would think that it's going to be between Nafanov and Kurugaliev. I think Nafanov, personally wrestling both of them, I think, Nafanov just seems to be getting better and better. But at the same time, you can never count out Kurugaliev. I mean, he's a guy that he's won multiple different international events between the Euregan and all those other ones, European games. So I don't really have a great prediction. I'm sure that, so a lot of people have better insider intel than I do, but whatever one it is, I'll be prepared for them.
Moving to your 2020 season, you competed twice, both in Ostia, Rome, Italy. Your first tournament of the year was the Matteo Pellicone. You fall to 2018 world runner-up Fatih Erdin from Turkey. Bounce back at the European Championships, and you fell again to Nafanov, but finished with a silver medal. So overall, what were your thoughts about your performance? Were you happy, and what were some improvements you were looking for after that?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy turnaround. So obviously we went to Rome, in January at the Matteo Pellicone, and even in those 2 weeks, I think we had 2 weeks to prepare for the European Championships. I just remember that I was really upset about how I'd competed in January. I know Fatih Erdin is obviously a great wrestler, but I like I said, I hold myself to some pretty high standards, and I thought he was somebody that I maybe looked even past, which is kind of crazy to think. But there were some great U.S. guys at that tournament, and Erdin is a great wrestler. So obviously, that's my own fault for kind of taking that match lightly and not doing the things to prepare. So I made sure that in those next 2 weeks, I was going to, do everything that I could to make that European Championships one of my best tournaments I've had. And, even though, I obviously came up short in the finals against Nafanov, again, just some preparation errors. And, I think it's crazy to say, but I warmed up a little bit too hard and didn't get the right fuel in me, and I ended up getting more tired than he did, which is very rare. But the matches before that, I was really happy with my performance, even though some of those matches were really close. But it said a lot about the progress I've made to win a silver medal at the European Championships, and a little over my first year of competing was really just something that was kind of getting me prepared to say, hey, the Tokyo, I'm going to be ready for this. And I a medal or a gold medal is definitely something that is possible and is something that I'm going to shoot for. So that kind of made all that come true. And then obviously now we have a little bit of a break, which I guess we can talk about that. But yeah, it was something that I was really proud of still, even though it wasn't gold.
You mentioned you said high-level Americans wrestling at the Mateo Pelicone, and we're running out of time here, so I'll keep this short. But Alex Dierner, one of those individuals who wrestled at the Pelicone, of course. Zahid Valencia ended up winning it. They wrestled in the finals, but people may not know that Ringer has recently transferred to the Cliff King Wrestling Club, where you also train. So what has that done for you, and what do you think it's going to do for you in the future?
Oh, it's going to help me jump levels. I mean, Alex is somebody he's so wrestling savvy, which is something I didn't necessarily know if that was going to be the case, because he's kind of a brute at the same time, which is like the best of both worlds. Like, he's somebody who can hand fight and has a lot of just natural, strength, to the point where if he really wanted to, he could just bully you and not have great technique. But getting with him and being able to work out with him recently, he's actually somebody who just has wrestling broken down to so many different technical positions where he is great in, that I might not necessarily be good at, and he's really good at explaining things too. So just as a workout partner to add to our already stacked lineup, I think he's going to be somebody that is going to help me accomplish those lofty goals I have, and I'm just really excited to have him here now. And I know that our club is just going to keep growing, with Sergey and Sean at the forefront of it all.
Yeah, it amazes me. Yesterday I was thinking about this, and you probably don't even remember saying this to me, but it's something that has made an impact on me and how I approach my life. But at the World Championships, you said to me, we were talking about recruits coming to the University of Michigan, and I had the opportunity to tour the Bana training facility. And I said, how can you not succeed at a place like the Cliff King Wrestling Club? But I was talking about the University of Michigan, and you said you come there for those reasons and not to wrestle. So you come for everything that's around you and not actually what you're there for. And that, to me, I mean, I've repeated that to countless people. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I say that all the time. It's so true.
Yeah, and that it's made a lasting impact on me just with how I approach different aspects of my life, and I've repeated it multiple times. But yeah, you're incredibly fortunate to be. I mean, you think about the family, great family. You have the facility at the Bana. You have great coaching staff. I mean, it's a perfect avenue for you to succeed in every level. And I'm going to end with this. We're going to throw a couple of fan questions at you, and then we'll let you get out of here. How does that sound?
All right. Yeah. I got all the time in the world, Eric. I can be here all day.
Okay, Jarsicchio asks, what's the most valuable lesson that you've learned from wrestling?
That everything has to be earned. I think it's a value that maybe we're getting away from in the outside world, but the wrestling, it's at the core. It's very rare that you see somebody that doesn't put in the hard work, that's not consistent, that continues to reap the rewards. So the biggest benefit, or the biggest value or lesson I've learned, is that you have to put in that hard work, and you have to be consistent in order to achieve anything worth achieving.
Liam Bull Connor Murray asks, what's your favorite Irish restaurant in Ann Arbor?
Oh, he knows. It's Connor O'Neill's. It's my go-to. Yeah, that's the best of the best right there.
And one of our favorite listeners, Matthew Rafat. Thank you so much for all the support, Matthew. Have you met any famous individuals from San Marino?
From San Marino, yes. So I guess I can give you the quick story of it, but actually back in December, I was awarded Athlete of the Year for San Marino. And so part of that was, our visit over there was we were able to sit in a congressional meeting of San Marino, and I was actually able to meet the president of San Marino, And it was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. Like the fact that I get to meet a president of a country was just incredible.
Do you remember what you talked about?
It was I
Simple.
Yeah, it was just a hi and bye. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
honest. I mean, he just said, great job, and look forward to seeing you in the future.
that's still cool. That's, I think, gonna do it for the fan questions. We had, if there were 300 fan questions, Hassan Yazdani, because you wrestled him, of course, Iranian fans went crazy.
Oh
And
gosh, yeah.
yeah, so I'll leave those out. But where can everybody follow you on social media?
So my Instagram is I think it's connected to this. It's Myles Amine. And it's just Myles Amine. And then on my Twitter is the same, Myles Amine. And if you want to add me on Facebook, same thing. I'm very active on Instagram and Twitter. So my ad name is it's right up here with Myles Amine, and then same thing for Twitter. So yeah, hopefully give me a follow, and we'll be looking forward to everything in the next year.
Awesome. So thank you so much. I just want to say thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And we wish you nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
So I've been Eric Olanowski. Make sure you're following United World Wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow, if you haven't already done so, sign up for UWW's official educational learning platform, academy.unitedworldwrestling.org. And if you haven't done so, purchase a We Will Wrestle Again t-shirt at uwwstore.com. Some of the proceeds from that will go to help provide financial relief to those wrestling organizations impacted by COVID-19. Myles, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Eric.